Okay, so again, my name is Tariana, and we're going to be interviewing you about the NSMA awards and just getting to know a little bit more about yourself. So my first question is, how did you get into the industry?
My high school basketball coach told me I wasn't good enough and handed me a video camera. And I went and applied to communication schools after that, after getting some good feedback. And I went to the University of Miami, and that was a great launching pad for me. We had a terrific student radio station, WVUM, and I met a lot of other excellent broadcasters there and kind of learned under their wings and eventually became the sports director and followed the teams around. And it was a great opportunity for me because Miami was very good at the time in football and in baseball, and they joined the Big East in basketball. So that was a good, jumping off point. And then I went right into minor league baseball from there.
And in that time period that you had, what were some of the important skills that you took away from being in Miami?
Preparation. Um, all of the people that I worked with really put the time in so that they sounded professional on the air. Um, Miami, when I started, did not have a Major League Baseball team. So the Canes were the team. We would get two, three, four, 5,000 people a game, depending upon the opponent. It was like a double A minor league baseball team, basically. And people would listen to the games because we were the only ones that had every game on the radio. So there was some attention on us, some attention paid. So it made us step up our game, and it was competitive. There were 20 or 30 people on the station that were trying to get games. So if you wanted to separate yourself, you needed to work on your craft.
So I saw on your resume you've had like a lot of experience in different types of sports broadcasting. Can you take us through your path from like your first job to like now? Just walk us through it.
Sure. My first job was in Sioux City, Iowa. It was a new team, the Explorers, in the Northern League. It was an expansion situation where they were starting it from scratch. So I learned a lot of valuable things there. In baseball, you have to pull the tarp and wear the mascot costume and do the PR and sell the sponsorships and the tickets. And we had a talk show every day on the AM station, KSCJ, before the games, regular sports talk show. So I was booking guests and doing general sports talk and then doing the pregame, then doing the game, then doing the postgame. So I would say the most valuable thing there was I was on the air so long every night, and you just sink or swim. Like you get better immediately because you just have to be in go mode and constantly be working and be in preparation. So that taught me a lot. I did that for 3 years, moved up to a different team in Iowa, a AAA team, the Iowa Cubs, the next year. Moved up to a bigger market the next year in El Paso, and then decided to come home to New Jersey because it was hard, being away for 6, 7 months each summer, doing baseball, doing full seasons, being away from my wife and my family, missing all the occasions as a lot of sportscasters do. So I started to get gigs closer to home.
Could you talk more about those gigs that you got closer to home?
Sure. Um, One of the first ones was Monmouth University and LIU. I did the basketball games and football in Monmouth's case. And then I got a minor league basketball thing where I had to do everything. It was similar to the baseball at Asbury Park Convention Hall, doing the New Jersey Shorecats USBL team. And that was a lot of work. And then I got lucky because I was living in Bloomfield, which is right next to Newark, New Jersey, and Newark added a team in the Atlantic League in '99, and I got that job as the play-by-play announcer, and then subsequently became assistant general manager and was hiring people and managing a lot of people, and that was a great thing for 2 years. And then I eventually, started doing other stuff like Atlantic 10 basketball, and that helped me get Seton Hall, which has been my main gig for the last 22 years.
How do you prepare for like big events or just broadcasting in general?
I try to be the most prepared person in the arena outside of the coaches. They know the most. but I want to know more than the fans, the players, the officials, anybody else, the writers that are going to be there, because anything can happen. Sports is unpredictable. That's why I like doing games instead of doing updates and studio stuff. We need that, and no offense to the people that do that, but I couldn't do it. I needed the unpredictability of the game to be out on the tightrope and to prepare in that way. Just knowing, the third string running back could score two touchdowns and be the hero that day, and I needed to know something about that person. So that and just doing all I can to dig up stories to serve the listener or the viewer and make it more interesting. Um, my motto is that, hey, it's sports, it's fun. I need to make it entertaining. I don't want to bore people to death, and I don't think people would ever accuse me of that.
So we've talked a lot about preparedness. How do you like be the most prepared that you can be?
Sure. I mean, I use all the regular sources like game notes and the internet, et cetera. But when it's any kind of a network TV game or any kind of a big game or a game where I just am really unfamiliar with the teams or the sport, I mean, that happens sometimes. Like I've had to call softball and field hockey and lacrosse and some of these sports that I don't do every day, let alone every 5 years sometimes. So I will try to make extra phone calls. Like I have somebody that is a noted high school coach in New Jersey. He coaches soccer and softball. So every year, if I have those kind of games, I'll call him and just like talk for like an hour about terminology and rules, and I just want to get in the headspace of that sport, and then I'll watch more of that sport than maybe I normally would, on cable or YouTube or whatever, just to really try to get into the mindset so I don't embarrass myself because I will try just about anything.
All right. Next question is, what advice do you have for people who want to get into not only the sports industry, but just broadcasting in general?
Read, read all you can. It develops your vocabulary and it makes you a more interesting person on and off the air. Um, and don't be afraid to be the nicest person that they ever met. Nobody wants to work with a jerk. If you can be a good teammate and acknowledge the people that you work with, that goes a long way. But the reading and the research and all of that is so important. I mean, you just want to know more than the next person, and you want to have that vocabulary so that in the flow of a game, the right word comes at the right time.
How would you say that your peers have helped influence you in your broadcasting? Because I know you mentioned how a lot of people helped under like taking you under the wing in the beginning, and you also managed people.
Sure. I mean, the people at Miami were terrific. My buddy Jim Frivola, Mark Fine, who gave me my first gig on the air. He was a longtime sportscaster in Dallas. And the others, that were there, Todd Wright and some of the others. Todd was on ESPN radio for a long time. And then when I got into CN8, that was important. I had a producer director, John Anderson, and a lot of good partners there that helped guide me. I hadn't done a lot of TV, and Eric Singer and Mitch Levitas, producer director for my NEC package, which I've done for 25 years. They were top-notch, New York producer directors. So it really helped working with them, and then all of the color commentators, that I've gotten to work with. I learned something from all of them. And of course, Gary Cohen, who I do the Seton Hall games with, he's a legend, future Hall of Famer in this organization and Major League Baseball, I'm sure. And this will be our 23rd year together. And just watching him work and how he operates has been invaluable.
My last question is, what's some memorable moments that you've had throughout your career?
I think the most memorable moment was last year. Um,
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in my 50s now and I've done thousands of games, but I think the one that I really reflect on now and enjoy is the NIT final from last year. Gary had to miss due to the Mets, and I was doing play-by-play for Seton Hall on the radio, and it was at Hinkle Fieldhouse, which is an historic building in Indy, and Indiana State was the opponent, so it was 99% Indiana State people. and a very small amount of Seton Hall fans. So it was like a road game. And Seton Hall was down late. They were down seven with like a minute to go and came back and won. And they hadn't won a championship of any kind since 1953. So
Wow.
um, it was fun. And, I felt like my calls were good and that got good feedback from it. The school gave us rings this year. I know it's not the NCAA tournament, it was the NIT, but it was exciting. And we had a good group of players and Shaheen Holloway did a good job as the coach. So um, that was a cool experience for sure.
Well, those are all my questions, unless you had anything else you'd like to add.
No, I would just say that it's a great business because most of the people that I've met in sportscasting are so kind and they look out for each other and try to help each other. I'll always, be able to reach out to people that I know and say, "Hey, have you seen, Villanova recently?" and get their input on that team. Um, it's a profession where there's good camaraderie. So I've really enjoyed that part of it, and to be selected by my peers for the award made it extra special because I know how hard the business is and how much I respect their opinion.
That's amazing.